An ominous threat lurks among wildlife that is no less than a nightmare for innocent animals: zombie deer disease. A menacing affliction that is keeping wildlife explorers and scientists vigilant and watchful. Zombie deer disease, also known as chronic wasting disease, is prompted by an insidious foe, prion. It is a severe neurodegenerative condition that affects deer, moose, and elks. Prion are proteins that hunt deer and moose and turn these majestic creatures into something that looks formidable. Zombie deer disease affects the brain and nervous system and displays frightful symptoms. Let's discover how this hideous ailment spreads and affects not only deer and moose, but also transmits to humans. What is zombie deer disease? Zombie deer disease, or chronic wasting disease, is a fatal condition that affects deer and its relative species like reindeer, white-tailed deer, red deer, sika deer, elk, and moose. This chronic wasting disease affects the nervous system and causes transmissible spongiform encephalopathies in various living organisms, including cattle and sheep. Transmissible spongiform encephalopathies are the collection of fatal, neurodegenerative illness that cannot be treated in any way and ultimately results in the death of the infected organism. Other than zombie deer disease, several forms of transmissible spongiform encephalopathies exist among humans and cattle, like Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in humans, scrapie in sheep, and mad cow disease in cows. What causes zombie deer disease, or chronic wasting disease? The causative agents of chronic wasting disease are prion. The word prion is derived from protein infection particle. Naturally, prion are not viruses or bacteria. They are abnormally folded proteins and infectious particles. How are prion produced? The mammalian brain contains normal folded and functional prion proteins crucial for the brain to work correctly. As a result of any mutation, the mutated gene produces misfolded and disoriented or distorted prion proteins that have lost their function because of structural alterations. This dysfunctional protein is now referred to as a prion. When this prion comes in contact with other normal and functional proteins in the nerve cells, it induces abnormal refolding of these proteins. As a result, a chain reaction is started that produces several dysfunctional proteins or prion which cannot be degraded in any way. These prion begin to accumulate in the brain and nervous tissues, causing holes in them, eventually leading to degeneration of the brain tissues. The brain and other nervous tissues give a spongiform appearance when stained and observed under a microscope. This explains why the brain and nervous system of mammals are the primary target sites of these prion. These mischievous proteins are the culprit behind prion disease, also referred to as transmissible spongiform encephalopathies. Commonly occurring prion diseases in humans include Gerstmann-Straussler-Schenker syndrome, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, Kuru disease, and fatal familial insomnia. In contrast, prion diseases that occur in animals include feline spongiform encephalopathy, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, scrapie, chronic wasting disease, ungulate spongiform encephalopathy, and transmissible mink encephalopathy. How is zombie deer disease transmitted? The chronic wasting disease has multiple sources of transmission, including genetic and direct/indirect transmission. Genetic transmission involves the inherent transmission of the disease from parents to their offspring, whereas direct or indirect transmission occurs through animals or their meat. The offspring inherit the mutated gene that codes for abnormally folded proteins from their parents, which is also the cause of the spread of this formidable ailment. However, chronic wasting disease transmits from one animal to another through direct contact with infected deer's body fluids like urine, feces, saliva, and blood. However, indirect transmission is also reported. Soil or water contaminated with carcasses and feces of infected animals will serve as a source of indirect transmission of prion to other animals, as prions stay in contaminated water and soil for a more extended time and cannot be degraded. A contaminated environment can also lead to the spread of this deadly illness. Zombie deer disease, or chronic wasting disease, can spread to other animals that consume the meat of infected deer or any other infected animal. Such cases of chronic wasting disease are reported in squirrel monkeys. According to a study in 2017, monkeys were given muscle and brain tissues of chronic waste disease infected deer as food. As a result, monkeys were found infected with the disease, confirming the transmission of chronic waste disease from infected deer meat to monkeys. Another group of monkeys also developed chronic waste disease when they were given the meat of deer, which was asymptomatically infected with this disease. However, no cases of chronic wasting disease have been found in humans till now. Symptoms. Chronic wasting disease is a 100% fatal infection. The first symptom takes approximately 2 years to appear, and after its appearance, the chronic wasting disease spreads aggressively. This disease can also spread from an infected but asymptomatic animal carrier. The disease continues to progress and eventually has fatal consequences. In the beginning, the animal looks normal without any visual signs, but as the disease progresses, the animal displays severe weight loss, ataxia. A condition refers to the lack of muscle coordination, trouble walking, excessive production of saliva, drinking plenty of water and urinating large volumes. Behavioral changes are also observed, like no interaction with other animals, shaking and tremors, no fear of people, unwillingness to move or inactivity. Diagnosis. Necropsy, a post-mortem examination after the animal has died, is an effective diagnostic method for chronic wasting disease. Observing the wounds and lesions in the tissues of the nervous system under a microscope can also produce positive results for chronic wasting disease infection. Treatment. Researchers from across the world are in continuous search for the treatment of chronic wasting disease. However, currently there is no cure available for this disease. Prevention. Several precautionary measures can be taken to prevent chronic wasting disease to occur, which include: avoid coming in contact with the infected animal or its body fluids when it is looking sick or showing odd or peculiar actions. Always wear latex or rubber gloves when handling meat or organs like the brain and spinal cord. Before consuming the meat of deer, make sure to test it for chronic wasting disease. If the result comes positive, then avoid eating that infected meat. Incinerate the dead bodies of animals infected with chronic wasting disease. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating content. And as always, stay curious and keep exploring.